This week, Lorna and I are going to be focusing on how do we go about preparing for the collaborative team meeting. We know it's such a critical structure for collaborative response, but how you go about planning for it is really critically important. So let's get started.
Are you a leader who is navigating the nuances of leading collaborative response in your school or district? Are you unsure of what collaborative response is? Are you looking to understand the critical role leadership plays when establishing and refining a collaborative response approach?
Collaborative response began as a grassroots approach to focus on the needs of students through a framework of collaboration. That approach has grown to a movement that is training leadership and education.
Through the Leading Collaborative Response podcast, Kurtis and I share our own experiences of leading collaborative response and lessons learned as we continue to learn and gain insight through the experiences of working alongside others. We also have the opportunity to engage in conversations with school and divisional leaders implementing the framework in their own organizations.
We know great leaders build great teams because that is what every child deserves. Subscribe to the Leading Collaborative Response podcast and join the thousands of schools seeing success for students through intentional and focused collaborative efforts. Before we jump into the episode, remember to join our mailing list at jlinsiders.com. Every Saturday, we send out an exclusive video only to our mailing list, along with other templates, resources, videos, and more. We also share upcoming events and opportunities you may not hear about anywhere else. Go to jlinsiders.com to become part of the JL Insider community. So when we think about the collaborative team meeting, and we know the impact that it can have for students and for classroom practice, we really do need to put some thought into how we go about preparing for that collaborative team meeting as leaders. Really ensure that we come together with a succinct plan of how we're going to move forward. So you've often referred to this in regards to the difference between planning and not planning for instruction as a classroom teacher.
Yeah, so we know how much time we invest as teachers to plan and organize our day. And we also know that the more planning and the more organization that happens for our classroom, the more successful our lessons are for that day, both for students and for teachers as well.
Absolutely. So we are including, if you look under the video in the description, a number of different resources, some blogs, some podcasts, some documents, an online workshop that could help support you in planning for the collaborative team meeting. But let's go and break down some of the things that we think are really key. If we had to make a checklist for leaders to go, here are all the things that I need to think about before the collaborative team meeting, let's get started. What would be number one on that checklist?
So for me, number one is thinking about that pre-meeting organizer. And just as it's called, pre-meeting, it needs to go out and have an opportunity for teachers to be able to think about who are the students that we're bringing forward into our collaborative team meeting. So that pre-meeting organizer allows us to be able to put some consideration into who are we talking about, but also gives us the heads up that we have a meeting coming up.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's critical in that pre-meeting organizer too is determining what's the focus, the overall focus. And we've talked a lot about this before of how do you align it with key priorities within the school. But when we send that out, to be able to say, remember, this collaborative team meeting, we will focus on literacy, student engagement, well-being, whatever that looks like for us. In a subsequent JL Insider in some upcoming weeks, we are going to talk about making those pre-meeting organizers data informed, but really ensure that we know what that focus is, and the pre-meeting organizer is really critical for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So number one is the pre-meeting organizer is sent out. We've clearly identified what will the focus be for this meeting. Come ready. What would be the next thing, that advice that you would give to leaders setting up for that collaborative team meeting?
Yeah, so the next thing would be thinking about that agenda. And we always want to have an agenda. And of course, in the agendas that we have shared through collaborative response, that it also serves as our note keeping place as well. So having that document ready that provides us with the sequence of events for that meeting, and we would encourage you to keep those fairly consistent because it guides us through the process of the collaborative team meeting. But having even simple things, a couple of simple things in that agenda ready, like what team agenda is it? Who is on that team? What's the date? Those simple things that you can fill out, that even though it seems like it's just a couple of minutes to pop those things in, it still saves us time when we're ready to jump into the collaborative team meeting.
So the same thing applies if you are utilizing the WeCollab system, where we can schedule a meeting, put in who's intended to be part of that, indicate focus, and just have that ready so that we can go when we get people around. Okay, so having that agenda ready, and I loved what you said about it. It's going to be a consistent agenda over time. It's that consistency and predictability which really starts to lend itself to the process over time. So the agenda's prepped and ready. What would be your third thing that you would advise leaders? We'll be right back to continue this episode. Struggling to facilitate your first collaborative team meeting? We know that running effective, impactful team meetings can feel overwhelming, but we've got you covered. The Collaborative Team Meeting Starter Kit gives you everything you need to set up, organize, and lead meetings that foster real collaboration and results. And the best part, it's completely free. Inside, you'll get a real-life collaborative team meeting vignette, a ready-to-use CTM agenda and notes template to keep meetings structured and efficient, a pre-meeting organizer to help teachers prepare effectively, printable meeting role displays to ensure smooth facilitation, a facilitator support guide with step-by-step instructions, as well as a key issue process poster to reinforce the structured problem solving of a collaborative team meeting. All of this to help you start transforming your team meetings today. Download your free Collaborative Team Meeting Starter Kit now at bit.ly/CTM Starter, all one word. That's bit.ly/CTM Starter, or find it under the resources tab on jigsawlearning.ca. And now back to our conversation.
So I think the third thing is considering your norms. And of course, your norms become an integral part of your collaborative team meeting, but knowing that we don't have to merely just read or read them at all, really.
Right. Yeah, we don't have to say, remember our norms and then list them all off.
Well, and that becomes just kind of a redundant activity that we really don't end up using well or learning from it very much. But really thinking about what is the one norm that you want to be able to focus on during this meeting, and what is a very small activity that we can engage in that will help us to realize that we are actually adhering to the norms that we had created earlier on.
So this is definitely, if you search out the videos, we've talked lots about norms and unpacking norms and reinforcing and so forth. But I often found as a leader that the norm I would want to look at for this meeting might align with something that happened in our last meeting. So for instance, last meeting we went off on a tangent a couple different times. So today, let's really focus in on the norm that we will be focused and concise in our sharing and conversations, if that's one of your norms. So let's really focus in on this. And Lorna, could we please ask that if you feel we're getting off that, just raise your hand, or we've shared other different strategies that we can utilize. And again, it doesn't mean that every time we have to come, and we've talked about before the use of elastic bands on wrists and we switch them over, or bingo chips that you put in every time someone shares an action. If one of our norms is we will be action focused, sometimes it can just be as simple as, today we're going to focus on this norm, and at the end of the meeting, we're just going to take a couple of minutes to reflect on how we think we did overall. Okay, so knowing what norm we're going to focus in on. What else would you say in time we'd want to be able to have prepped ahead of that collaborative team meeting?
So there's a number of resources that can be developed at the beginning of the year prior to your collaborative team meetings, or I'll start there.
Yeah.
Thinking about roles. And of course, once you've established what roles you want to have within your collaborative team meeting, being able to have role cards or displays, and those displays allow us to have the role in front and with even a description of who or what that job is for that person in that role.
I used to subscribe to the idea of cards, and I still think it's valuable, but I really like the displays when it can show who's doing what for our meeting success. And we often find that schools can have these prepped ahead of time. Maybe it's similar people taking similar roles because that's a skill set that they hold. Or we may be moving those roles around. We may even, I saw one school where at the end of one collaborative team meeting, they would establish the roles for next time. And if, for instance, you're facilitating, it's going to be your task to get the agenda prepped and determine which norm you want to focus on, for instance. So having that, I guess having it clearly thought out ahead of time, but then the physical resource. And I know that you've talked before about whether you're in a meeting space that's you're able to use consistently, and do we have those resources on hand, or even just having that bin that we take if we're going into a classroom. So I've got roles in that bin. What else do I have in that bin?
Yeah, so of course your copies of your continuum, and being able to have that continuum readily accessible. That's the whole point of having the bin, is that we just need to bring that bin off of the shelf, put it on the table, and we're ready to go. Those are those ongoing resources. So in there too, having sticky notes, but those continuum become really important in our conversations as we host them through collaborative team meetings. We might also have those continuum posted in the room if you're privileged enough to have an actual space for a meeting.
Yeah. So you've talked too about having some resources like Post-it notes, even pens. I've seen needing to have
and
there as well.
Treats are always good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I've got the resources prepped. So if we're in a consistent meeting space, oftentimes it's set up to be conducive to effective conversations and collaboration. But what if I am not a school that has a consistent meeting space? We're using every space imaginable to support the students that we have. What would we do in that case if we know the collaborative team meeting is going to happen in a classroom? We'll be right back to continue this episode. As a leader, we often find ourselves consumed by the follow-up required after a meeting. To ensure we all understand the decisions made, we review the meeting notes, make adjustments, and add resources as needed, then craft an email that goes out to all those who attended the meeting. This takes time. In WeCollab, automated emails are provided directly following the meeting that include the celebrations, discussion notes, and actions going forward from the meeting. There's no need for lengthy emails or extended time to create the summaries. Start your free trial to experience the power of WeCollab. And now back to our conversation.
Yeah, so I think making sure that people understand the arrangement of the room is critical to creating that culture of collaboration. So when we either sit in a horseshoe or we sit in a circle, then everyone is included. Everyone has the opportunity to be able to engage in the conversation, and everyone has eye contact with each other, which we know is really critical in being able to contribute ideas and really think about that psychological safety when we create a space that is encouraging and welcoming of each other. We often will come to a collaborative team meeting and it's been set up in a classroom, and of course everyone comes rushing in quickly because we have so much on the go, but even taking just a few moments to create that circle or create
move the desks around if we need to
is really important, because we often have seen where people just sit wherever in the room, and it really and not intentionally, but it really ends up having some people not part of that conversation at all, just because of the place that they're sitting.
Yeah, absolutely. If I've got someone sitting behind me, I can't make eye contact, and we know through our learning around psychological safety that it's really hard to establish psychological safety in a team if we can't make eye contact and really show attentive listening for one another. So I often share with schools too that having the meeting notes projected is really, really critical. So that idea of horseshoe, so that we can all see the visual focal point of the notes that we have while still being able to see
everyone
there. So I've often had times where I've come in to observe a meeting and provide feedback, and it's happening in a classroom and people are around that horseshoe, but because it's in a classroom, sometimes it means the computer that's hooked to the projector is tethered to a desk in a corner of the room. So I'll see a team that's really trying to focus in, but you've got one team member that's sitting off to the side. So I've shared in my feedback it would be worth the very small investment in a wireless lap or keyboard and mouse, just so that we can hook it up to that computer, but then that person can be physically present with us as well. So planning for the physical arrangement of that room is critical for our leaders as well. So we recently had as well a JL Insider that had reached out and said one of the things that they had started doing with a high degree of success is sending out a little pre-reading activity. So the example that they had given is we're going to focus in on student engagement. And so ahead of time, also sent along with the pre-meeting organizer a short little article that people could read of 5 ways to increase engagement within the classroom, for instance. And I thought that was a great mechanism. Or if we're looking at executive functioning as our focus, well, everyone go read this blog in preparation of 10 incredible strategies to improve executive functioning for students in the classroom.
Well, and I love that idea because it's not just about regurgitating what's in those articles, but when we send it ahead of time, it allows us to start thinking about, in my instance, in my classroom with the students that I support, how would this look in my classroom? Just starting to generate those what-if ideas prior to the meeting.
So really, you're just giving everyone that mental forethought that I'm starting to already process and think through ideas before I even get into the room. So we do hope that this has provided a few thoughts and ideas and reminders when it comes to planning for your collaborative team meetings. We'd love to hear any other things that you do in order to ensure success for your collaborative team meetings. Reach out with any questions, and as I mentioned earlier, check out the description for some further resources that may be able to help you as well. So, love to be able to hear from you, but until next time, we wish you all the best.
See you soon.
For more on collaborative response, visit jigsawlearning.ca or join the JL Insider to receive access to newly added resources and content. Make sure to follow us on social media. Subscribe to the podcast and the Jigsaw Learning YouTube channel to access past and upcoming episodes. Join us again to continue to build your own capacity and leading collaborative response in your context.